with former U.S. Poet Laureate Juan Felipe Herrera in honor of his new book, Every Day We Get More Illegal. As you watch the event, if you have a question, you can type it into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. So if you look to the bottom, and if you'll see a little button that says Q&A, click that. You can type in a question, and we will be looking at those a little bit later in the program and reading them out. If you're one of the students joining us, when you type your question, if you could also type in the name of your school and your first name, that would be great. Today, we're welcoming students from Argo Community High School, Chicago Math and Science Academy, Lindblom Math and Science Academy, and Phoenix Military Academy to this event through the generosity of our youth education sponsors. We apologize in advance if we don't get to all of your questions, but we'll do our best to ask as many of them as possible. And if you'd like to purchase a copy of the book and receive a signed book plate, you should visit our bookselling partner at Seminary Co-op during this event for that exclusive opportunity. We'll drop the link in the chat to you all. Now, at this point, I'd like to introduce Christina Carrera from the American Writers Museum, who will be interviewing our special guest today. So I'm going to hand it over now to Christina.
Thank you, Carrie, and welcome everyone, especially our students. For more information about our education programming, please visit our website at AmericanWritersMuseum.org. This is the latest program in our Jeanne and John Rowe series, My America, Immigrant and Refugee Writers Today. You can see the exhibit of the same name online, along with educational resources and downloads at my-america.org. Today, we'll be speaking with Juan Felipe Herrera. In 2015, he was appointed the 21st United States Poet Laureate, the first Mexican-American to hold the position. In his statement of choice, Librarian of Congress James H. Billington said Herrera's poems contained Whitman-esque multitudes that champion voices and traditions and histories, as well as cultural perspective that serve to illuminate our larger American identity. Herrera grew up in California as a son of migrant farmers, which he has commented strongly shaped his work. A Washington Post article tells a story that as a child, Herrera learned to love poetry by singing about the Mexican Revolution with his mother, a migrant farm worker in California. Inspired by her spirit, he has spent his life crossing borders, erasing boundaries, and expanding the American chorus. Herrera is the author of 30 books, including collections of poetry, prose, short stories, young adult novels, and picture books for children. His latest book of poetry is Every Day We Get More Illegal. Welcome, Juan Felipe. We are thrilled that you have joined us.
Well, thank you so much. It's a great pleasure to be here with you and the American Writers Museum and all the students and teachers, everyone. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to this.
Yes, definitely. So tell me about your journey that inspired this book of poems.
Oh, this particular book of poems, Every Day We Get More Illegal. I wanted to write in a very direct fashion. I wanted to write directly at the reader. So if you read it, it's almost like the book is talking to you or the poems are talking to you. That was my goal. And because otherwise, I'm experimenting most of the time. I experimented quite a bit in this book, but not in terms of language. It was more in terms of being more direct and of course, what I wrote about. And what inspired the book really was, that feeling of every day we sense that things get more, they get tighter, there's more restrictions, in particular the migrant experience and that the experience of all of us in general. Instead of more openness, there seems to be more, the doors seem to be bigger and tighter and more locked up in more ways than one. So I wanted to think about that, and I want to have the readers and everyone reflect on those things. What kind of nation are we? What is America? Who are we? And to embrace this, and to create the biggest embrace possible for everyone and for the whole earth and for nature and all of us together. So that's the impulse in the collection.
Definitely, wonderful. And also thinking about it, what do you think about the label illegal and the effect that it has had on the immigrant identity?
Well, you know, it's not a good thing to call people illegal to begin with. You know,
Yeah.
actions can be illegal, perhaps. Yes, actions can be illegal. Uh, but how can people be illegal? We're reducing. When we call someone illegal, we're reducing that human being into, who knows, into a little shred of a phrase in a piece of paper. And a human being is not a phrase in a piece of paper. A human being is a beautiful being with many dimensions, not just a legal status, with many dimensions: a father, a mother, a child, a son, a daughter, a grandmother, a grandfather, a farmer, a worker, an artist, a poet, a student. We have many dimensions, not just a few words on a piece of paper that say illegal. And I also wanted to invite peace, invite unity, as opposed to create division. So that's where the title comes from, and also comes from a lot of concern. Like all of us, we'll have concerns, and we all notice what's going on. In particular, young people, you know, you notice everything. People, you know, students notice everything because they have very open hearts and open senses. So those are some of my ways of bringing together this poetry.
Sure. And yeah, you really
The
did
term illegal.
humanity in people in your poems.
Yes.
I found a haunting aspect to the poem, Todavía estoy aquí, that the deported father said. He's gone, but he's still present in this shadow self. Can you talk to me about this binding connection to family and home, regardless of borders and forced separation?
Well, you know, every family is a family. Every family is a family. Even if you feel distant, you're still a family. Even if you rejected somebody in the family, or you just feel like you just want to be alone, you're still with that family. And when you get forcibly and violently ripped apart, imagine your feelings. Imagine. I remember being in Wyoming, in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. I've gotten invited to go to Jackson Hole a couple of times. And I visit high schools, and I visit teachers, and I visit community centers. And I also walk around, doodling around like a poet always doodles around. And you want to see the mountains, and you want to see the people, and you want to see the city. I talked to students in this particular time, and one of the students, a Latino, and I think it was like in 11th grade, and probably at Jackson Hole High School. I think that's perhaps the name of it, but it was a high school in Jackson Hole. And he was talking about his migrant experience and this whole border division issue. And he said that he felt as if another half of him was left behind.
Yeah.
Another half, he's still out there, and he's also over here in the United States. But that out there part of him is still there. So it's like you're no longer whole. You're no longer one person. Part of you is over there. You live there. Your family is there, or you have families there, and you're also in school here in California or in Wyoming. So you're kind of floating, and that's an odd feeling, and it works against our sense of who we are, and we feel cracked and divided internally, and that creates a lot of tension. It creates anger. It creates unhappiness, and that's not the way we want to be. We want our peoples to be, and we want our students to be. Yeah.
Yeah, much of your writing, we get a close look at these experiences, which also brings me to you write about terrible injustices, as in the poem Border Fever, 105.7 degrees, which is dedicated to migrant children that have died in custody. But in these poems, we also see possibility. You know, Come With Me ends with esperanza, hope. What do you say about that contrast?
Well, those are realities in our lives, aren't they? They're realities in our lives. You know, we want to be together. We want to invite people into our lives. We want to create a very intimate relationship with what's going on and with each other. We want to be close. We want to have friends. It's so joyful, don't you think, to have friends and goof around and make funny sounds with your, you know, with your voices, scream. And also be, you know, really have a great conversation about how you're really feeling. But then again, let's say your little brother got taken away at the border, And all of a sudden you can't have those conversations because you're so concerned about your little brother, and that little brother gets taken to a jail. Imagine how you would feel. And then that little brother gets a fever, or little sister, and no one takes care of your little sister or little brother. And the fever keeps on going up and up and up and up till it hits 105.7. And then that little child dies. So, it's good to write about those that are suffering, because we want to we want to talk about them because it wasn't right. So we want to bring that out into the world and say, look, we have to stop this behavior of taking people apart. And look at this child. What did he do? What did she do? What did she do? Nothing. And what happened to her? Everything. And what happened? Where is she now? She passed away. She's no longer there. So that's, I get into that because I want to, I just don't want to talk about, fun things and experimental things. I love to experiment with language. I mean, that's my delight. It's like painting a car or painting a mural, a car. But I also want to talk about reality. See, we just live in that candy world. It's okay. Those are beautiful colors. Candy colors, they're purple and blue and pink and, trolls, the movies. And that's great. I love those colors. My granddaughter just goes bananas. But we also have to look at reality. We can't run from it. If we run from it, we don't face it, we're not going to be full human beings. There's pain, and then there's pleasure, and there's happiness. So as human beings, we have to work all of that. We have to face the pain. Those that are outside our family in particular, we have to reach way out there, way out there. Otherwise, we're working inside a small bubble, a tiny box. What kind of human being is that? We'll have fun, we'll enjoy, but it'll be a little tiny box. And guess what happens? We're not going to grow and become full human beings. Why? Because we missed reality. And what is reality? It has pain, suffering, joy, happiness, many cultures, many languages, many religions, many people, LGBTQ+. It has all that. So full human being embraces the entire world, all of humanity. And then you'll feel what happiness really is. So I don't want to forget about that, and I know you don't either. And that's why I write about it.
Wonderful, thank you. And we also, you also peer into some of the possible causes. In your poems, there are references to mechanisms of detachment moments, the machinery of the border control, the apparatus under the wall, the weaponized hormigas. Can you tell me about these inhuman systems that you observe?
Well, you see where I go now. You see what I've been writing now. we have, Christina, we have to examine everything.
Sure.
Right? We have to examine stuff. I always have walked around. People, making jokes, and I love to be funny, as you can tell. In high school, I draw cartoons on my papers. I went writing a paper, a philosophy paper, summer school. I lived a block from summer school. So, I took summer classes because what am I going to do, next to a barbershop? Go to a barbershop and get haircuts all the time. So I took a philosophy class, and I love that class, Schopenhauer, Descartes, it's just on and on. I just fell in love with that kind of thinking, deep thinking and examination. I hope I'm going to get the point here. So I would put in a paper, and I put cartoons on the margins. Then I would say, Professor Whiteman, it's okay if I put cartoons on my paper? He said, oh, come on, for sure. Just turn in your paper, will you? And so I like to be funny and draw cartoons, but I also like to investigate. And this whole idea of the border system, I said, what is it? What is that thing? Okay, there's borders, all right. There's a wall. And there's a immigration custody patrol, ICE, and there's border agents. I know them since I was a child. I mean, I faced that crossing the border, and I faced it in California with my parents. But what is it really, right, students, right? We want to find out, what is that thing? And it really is a system, and it's connected to everything else we do. And the physical border is all over the United States, as you know. You can drive from El Paso, Texas, north to Colorado, and you're going to run into more border stops with dogs and with border patrol and with cameras and with interrogation beyond the U.S.-Mexican border, official border. So it's a complete system. And it's also how we think. Don't forget, it really is who we are. Those borders reflect who we are. Why? Because we agreed to it. We're not, right now we're not complaining about it. And that's an agreement. Silence is an agreement. So we're all involved in what that border is. And what it turns out to be is who we are. Everything that we approve of is who we are, right? You say, hey, I really like that ice cream, that triple colored ice cream. I love that. So that represents who you are, what you like and what you love. So that's what I'm doing with, that's what I say about the border as a system. And it's also connected to violence. A lot of violence takes place at the border. I know many of us approve of the border, but it also contains violence. And I don't think you approve of the violence. Physical abuse, abuse of women, abuse of children, and on. It's, if you want to approve of the border, then approve of a more compassionate border there. However, I want to think of a new kind of nation, because we need to think of the new generation. We all need to think of the new idea. We're here to create a new idea of who we are, not just the same idea. You don't want the idea of my generation from the 60s. That was a fun generation. You want a 21st century idea. And what is it? Is it the same? Is it just another stronger, more highly funded idea that of the border and who we are as America? Or do you want a new idea, a more compassionate idea, a more inclusive idea? See, that's where you come in. So analysis is always important. Asking yourself, who are we? Who am I? How do I perceive the world? What is real for me and what is fantasy for me? And what is good for me? And what is right for me? And what is right in society? And what's not working in society? And how can I bring about, how can I affect that? How can I bring my values, my positive values into play with my writing? Because who else has the kind of writing instruments that you do? Very few people. Tablets and computers and cell phones and all the systems and programming of the technology. And who knows it more than students and professors that teach in schools and here at the Writing Museum? Not everybody. Very few people. We would think everybody does. Not true. And globally, very few people. So you have the technology, you have the new fresh brains, and you have the teachers and the schools and the libraries and all the books and all the studies. So who's going to have that new idea? Most likely you have access to creating that new idea. And that's why I speak of the border in those ways. I'm trying to come up with a new way of talking about it and perhaps change. That's what we're after. We're always after change.
Yes. And you have so much experience as an activist. Has that really shaped your writing, being an activist, to move forward in action?
Yes, it has. When I went to UCLA out of high school, imagine me. I never thought I was going to go to UCLA. I was just diddling around the hall, and my counselor said, "Hey, Juan, what are you doing in the hall?" "I'm just hanging out with Oscar." "Well, you should be at Mrs. Cunningham's office." I go, "Oh, because, she has applications for UCLA." "Oh, okay." And they're giving affirmative action scholarships, 4 years. "Juan, your grades are, they're okay." "Okay, Mr. Weiss, okay." So that was me. I filled it out. And then I got a big old giant envelope, 2-pound envelope that said, "Hey, congratulations. You're invited to the student orientation, and we look forward to seeing you in the fall. So I had never been in a university, and my mother only went to third grade, being a farm worker, and my father never went to school at all. He was born in 1882. So what kind of schools did you have in 1882? You know, especially if you're just a laborer, you work with your hands all the time. There was no schools. Working on the railroad was his school. Working in the ranches in Wyoming was his school, and always being a farm worker all his life in his 70s. Farm working. Imagine 102 degrees and with your just bent down chopping grapes all day. I couldn't do 5 minutes. So I've always been concerned about people, because I grew up in a family that kind of went through tough times. So then I said, I want to change that. And also when I was at UCLA, the farm workers movement came into being. The wages, the treatment, the pesticides, the pay, all that, and the suffering of farm workers. I go, I don't want that to be the way that is. And by that time I had kind of finally got up on, in front of campus, in campus, standing up and reciting poems as best as I could. Don't think I was Mr. Smoothie up there.
Okay.
My voice gargled and squeaked. I sounded like Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck, but I attempted it because I had this kind of burning need to just get it out. Because I grew up on the outside of towns and the little trailers. And I never was inside a town, right? You always want to be inside. Like at high school, you go, hey, how's it going? Yeah, all right. What do you think? Yeah. You want to be with friends. But when you're outside, well, you don't really have friends because you're way outside of everything. You may have people you see in school, but then you got to go all the way out there. And that's it. So by the time I was at UCLA, I was ready to say stuff because I had swallowed it, many a time. So that's how it works, So we got to speak up. Speak up with a kind heart. Yes.
Absolutely. And you want to say your writing career is so prolific, as we have mentioned short stories, poetry, novels, so many genres. What's your writing practice that makes this possible?
Well, I write every day and I scribble every day, and I have all kinds of paper and pens and colored pencils. I might as well, just live in this little studio that you're looking at. I try not to because, I have a family, by the way, and grandchildren and great grandchildren. 14 grandchildren. How many is that? 14. And around 4 great grandchildren. 1, 2, 3, 4. And but I write a lot and scribble. Don't think I write these big papers every day. I just scribble, put a few words on paper, and just follow. I just follow those words, and I draw big circles with markers, big old circles. Then I draw across them like a pizza, and then I write on the spokes of the inner circle in a color pen. I just like doing that. Maybe it's 10 words worth. And then I take a big old sheet of paper. It's newsprint. Then I write when as often as I can. And the reason I write for children and toddlers and middle school and adults and all that is because I figure if I can. No one says stop, by the way, right? If someone says stop writing, I'll probably stop for a little bit and wonder why they're saying that. But if not, I want to continue. So if you don't see a stop sign, don't create one for yourself. Explore. That's what we are. We're explorers. So I made an attempt to write for middle school. In high school, it's called Crash Boom Love. It's a heavy book.
Wow.
It's called Crash Boom Love. And there's a big old crash in there. And it really hurts the people in it badly, badly. And there's one called Skate Fate. I gave this one my best.
I love that. I was a skateboarder, so I looked at that, was great.
Hey, I couldn't do it. You're brave. I couldn't do it. I'd be flying out of that skateboard. So the more we experiment, the more audiences we reach, and that's what we're here for as writers, to reach audiences and families. But congratulations on skateboarding.
Thank you. I don't do it anymore. I'll try to. Well, these are the questions I have for today so far. Would you like to read for us now?
Yeah, sure. For sure. I like to read for you. Do you want me to read out of Crash Boom Love? Do you want me to read out of Skate Fig? Or do you want me to read out of Every Day We Get More Illegal?
Well, let's start with Every Day We Get More Illegal.
Okay, let's start with Every Day We Get More Illegal. And remember, this is a book kind of addressed to the reader, addressed to America. And so let me read you the very first one. It's called America, We Talk About It. Every day of the week. It is not easy. First, I had to learn over decades to take care of myself. Are you listening? I had to learn. I had to gain, pebble by pebble, seashell by seashell, the courage to listen to myself, my true inner self. For that, I had to push you aside. It was not easy. I had pushed aside my mother, my father, myself, and that artificial stairway of becoming you, to be inside of you. After years, I realized, perhaps too late, there was no way I could bring them back. I could not rewind the clock, but I did. I could do one thing. I could care. Now we are here. So that's the opening poem.
Wonderful. I also want to remind our audience that we're going to go into Q&A pretty soon. So just click into the Q&A box, write your question in, and don't forget to put your name and the school that you're from.
Oh, yeah.
And read a little bit more and have the questions come in.
Okay. You want me to read some more or have the
Yeah, let's read some more. You want to read from one of the high school books or mix it up?
Okay, here we go with Crash Boom Love.
Great, thank you.
You're just fully 100% welcome. And this is called Broken Fingernails. How does that sound?
That sounds good.
This takes place outside of high school, right on the outside, where there's a little, little markets and little places to do stuff. And the character is his character's name is Caesar, and his friend is called Miguel. Miguel and I walk without saying a word. We walk as if underwater, as if we were dead leaves or algae floating to the other side of the shore. I can feel a wave from behind me about to suck me into its icy depths. I'm going down, empty, sad desert behind Lucky's mini mart. The new guy circles me, the new guy at school. The new guy circles me, his hand flapping in front of him, fanning air into his face. Dark, head shaved, he stares and burns his eyes. The mini mart is our basilica, a dirt palace where our bodies cross and go up in flames. New guy floats. Here's my altar. Here's my mirror. I have seen his face before. Hard, glassy, reddish eyes, his high cheekbones and his tight lips, his small ears, ready to track any sound, a raindrop, a wisp of sand. And his nose, thin, a bit hooked, his forehead clean, smooth, blank. He is sure. His shoulders a small, proud box and brown, long strides. He moves like a cat, a dark spinning fur with his eye and with eyes that holler and growl and spark torches without a word. I can see Sammy in the circle. Sammy's a friend of his. I can see Sammy in the circles around us. I can see Miguel in his tiny worried frames. He wrings his hands like towels. And Lulu, bow-legged in white overalls, jelly pumps, and Carlos Johnson, another dude, headphones on, quiet. And Miguel Ortega snarls, hollers to the new guy, kick his butt. He's a scrappa, a wetback, and he spits on me. He swings and slams my nose. He swings and I go down to the dirt, chokes me, bashes my head against the ground. I'm drinking dirt and little pieces of wood. My face is dragging against pebbles and rocks, tears and hot blood and laughter, slapping hands, high fives and long stretched voices. Cries circle and cries circle around me. My mother's face, who knows crooked English, and my father's face, who leaves me in a knot, and my empty living room back home, and Mrs. Tinkle, my teacher, and Mr. Santos, my teacher, who doesn't speak Spanish, and Shane, who stomps on my new shoes, and my naked body that everybody sees in a veil of steam and shame, sprawled on the sand in the dark copper light. Lulu lunges toward me. Stop it, man, it's over, all right? Ya estuvo, that's it, she yells out. Come on, chavala, the new guy tears my shirt. Let's finish it. Come on. Jump back to the circle of hits and gravel bites and heat and slams. Lulu pulls me back hard. Her black fingernails break off. Maybe I'm in my mother's womb again. Maybe I'm about to be born, about to die. I'm alone. My knuckles raw, my face watery. Everyone's gone. Everyone except Miguel. Miguel Soncil.
So much.
Isn't that cool?
It's so cool. I think so.
When you fight in the school and get slammed, but I wanted to make it as real as I could. It's not a pretty scene. Yeah.
Oh. Well, I think we're ready to start into some questions from our audience. Just a reminder to everyone, you can still write in your questions. Just click on the Q&A box, type your question up, and don't forget to put your name and the school that you're from. We're going to start with Kalia. My name is Kalia from Argo Community High School. I write poetry, but I have a fear of speaking in front of an audience. How do I overcome that fear?
Well, I know that fear. I had it many years. And you just got to get yourself up there. You know what I did to get it to at least you got to throw yourself in the fire, basically. And you know what was my fire in middle school? Because in middle school, I just felt what you're feeling. I just couldn't handle it anymore. The teacher would look at me and go, oh no, he's going to ask me a question. Oh God. And my heart would beat and I would start sweating. Or somebody asked me a question, I go, oh man. Or, people had conversations and I didn't know how to get in a conversation. I had all that. So you know what I did in seventh grade? You know what school what class I registered for 8th grade? Choir. Because I knew that choir was going to make me stand up and sing in front of people. So you got to throw yourself out there. You can get a poetry book at home. I used to get in front of a mirror. Imagine that. So I would recite my book in front of a mirror and I would do my hands like this. I was Mr. Fabulous by myself in front of a mirror. But eventually I threw myself into the fire, into a choir. And little by little, you got to sing, you got to stand up. And then I got on stage because you're in a choir. And then I did a performance in front of the assembly because you're in a choir. So little by little, it took me like 4 or 5 years, but you got to do it. And just let go, get the fear out of your head. You know what fear is? It's dirty furniture and it's in your head and it's in your way. Every time you look out, the dirty furniture of fear is in front of you. Just get rid of it. Turn that channel off and get into the real you, the happy, old you. You have it, but you got to do it. You got to step into it as often as you can. I want to say something in class. Oh God, I don't know what I'm going to try it. At least I'll say hi to the teacher. Hello, Mr. Whiteman. I have a question. That's what you got to do. And do it with your poems. Share it with a friend. And then keep on moving. Oh man, it was tough.
Thank you. Our next question is from Taya, goes to Argo Community High School. If you didn't become a writer or poet, what would you have done instead?
Let me see. I would have become a painter. I would have gone into art school because I love art. And I wanted to get into sculpture at the university. But sometimes you love something, you don't know you love it. You see? Sometimes you like to dance and you're the dancer of the century, but you don't know you like it. You just do it. You don't know you're good at it because you just do it. And sometimes you like to analyze things. Well, you know what? There's more to it than that, Jason. If you really think about it, you have to think about the energy part. You didn't think about the energy. And all of a sudden, you don't know you have a very analytical mind. But so we have to become kind of aware of what it is we like and what it is we get a lot of joy in when we're in school, middle school, high school. Not what we should do, even though that's appreciated, but what you really like. And I really liked art class. I just love my art class. Watercolors and painting and the history of the Renaissance painters. To this day, I have those paintings and books around me. I love those guys and Van Gogh. So become more aware of what you really like, not what you should like. And did I answer more or less? So I would be a painter. I would be a sculptor. But the lines were so long at UCLA to get into an art class. I never got in. So I got into anthropology. But since I was working with my voice all along, I started to write poetry because poetry is cool because when you're alone, like I was, you're kind of talking on paper and you're kind of getting out your feelings on paper, like a journal. So then automatically I went from there to reciting the poems and to where I'm at now. But enjoy what you like and become more aware of what you really enjoy and see if you can find a channel for it. Dance, art, analysis, technology, a doctor. You really like to care for others. You really want to care for others. You're good at caring. Well, think about medicine. Don't worry about, I can't do it. I don't like chemistry. Get that fear furniture out of your head. Turn the channel into the positive channel and then follow what you really love. That's a long answer.
Great. So we have a question from Matilda, North Park University in Chicago. I wonder what book or work collection you're most proud of. And as a follow-up, what book, work collection you think that makes a best impact and difference for your audience?
You mean my book or books?
Books in general, overall.
What book?
Sorry. Yeah, your books that you're most proud of for yourself. Impact it has made.
I like, I just discovered that I like my first book a lot. But the one they're all cool because they're all you. Remember that? They're all you at different points in your life. So it's kind of hard to just like one because that was you back in a few years ago. And yesterday you wrote something new and you really like that because it's kind of closer to you, but they're all who you are. So it's good to like them all. But sometimes one stands up. So look, this is my first book and there's drawings in it. And it's bilingual. It was so fun to write bilingually. And we're so used to writing in one language, aren't we? That's okay. And you're good at that. Beautiful. English is hard. If we were from another country and attempted to write English, it's hard because we have all these funky words that you don't write them the way they sound, like thorough. Why isn't that written Thoro? Thorough. No, it's not written that way. So it's a thorough, OGH. What's a G doing in thorough? But we're only conscious of one language, typically. But we're also bilingual, and we can be trilingual. And actually, the new idea is to be multilingual. That's the new idea, because the world has many peoples, and if we're not a world person, then we're not going to be able to think of humanity. We want to be part of humanity. We're part of humanity, but consciously we need to expand our way of being aware of humanity and participating in humanity. So this was a bilingual book, and it's one of my favorites because it was so generous. I'll read you 3 lines. Let us gather in a flourishing way, with sun, luz, grains, abriendo los cantos, opening the songs, and it que cargamos cada día, that we carry every day. Let us gather in a flourishing way, with sunlight grains, opening the songs that we carry every day. I haven't written like that in decades, and I really like that positive voice that we need today. So I encourage you to write poems of hope, poems of unity, and poems of love. I bet you if you did that and you read it and turned it in or made an assembly or put a club together or just read it to friends, they would probably, giggle. We can, oh yeah, writing about love. But you can tell that we need love just by looking at the television or looking at what's going on. We need a positive voice. So I like this one a lot. It's called Rebozos of Love, Shawls of Love. And the collections, I like my children's book collections because I read for children. And they get they laugh it all up when I say just one word. Like I walk in a classroom and I say, cilantro. Everybody just, oh, he said cilantro, teacher. Oh, I can't believe it. He said cilantro. So yeah, elementary school classes are a lot of fun if you write for young children. And I encourage you to write for young children. You see, we write only in English. Okay, good. But the more languages we know, the more languages we can write in. We haven't thought of writing for children. I encourage you to, because then you can visit them and then you can share your experience with children. And then they're aware of who you are. You go, oh, teacher is a high school student. I go to high school. You see, you open doors for children just by visiting the children and writing for children. And that's what we want to do. We want to open doors. Unless you want to live in a closet, it's kind of dark in there. And, there's funny sounds in there. And hangers will get in your nose, stick on your nose. And you can get locked up in there and then you can't get out. It's not a good idea. Open doors, best deal. And there's Olivia, or is it? No, Ore Ulua. Huh? Who knows?
Yes.
Will you tell me?
That's
Beautiful
true.
name.
Yeah, we have a question from Ahibola from Chicago Math and Science Academy. What do you like about poetry and what do you dislike about poetry?
I like everything about poetry. See, poetry is investigation. Poetry is thinking. Poetry is your inner self. Poetry is kind of the molecules of language. You're playing with molecules, isotopes, atoms as you're moving words around. You're playing with sound. Imagine, I know you all work on computers and you see the sound waves. You can adjust sounds and cut and edit a phrase, and you can see all the the high and the low frequencies. So that's what poetry also is. It's frequencies of sound, and you can move them around. If you move around a word from the beginning to the middle or to the almost end or end to the end, and you switch the terms around, you're switching the sound frequencies. So that's also interesting. But most of all, it's speaking and recalling. You can recall a family member that passed away, or someone that you care for, or ancestors, and present them to the public, and give them life, and extend their life into the future. Because your books are going to be somewhere in the big cloud, and the cloud continues about that. So it's a way to extend life for those that passed on, for them to be remembered. It's a sound frequency science world. It's also a world of thinking, of creating your thinking that you haven't put out. Once you write it, the thoughts come to you, and you say, "Yeah, I really want to think of what's going on. I don't know." So you put some words down. Like this morning, I go, "Let's see, what kind of nation is this? What kind of nation do I want?" And I said, "I want a prismatic nation." It just came to me, a prismatic nation that includes all colors, it includes all nations, it includes all cultures, and it just shines from different facets. How about that? Instead of binary nation, us against them, us separate from them. I don't think I want a binary nation. I think I want a prismatic nation. How did I do that? Well, how did I start that? By putting words on paper. So it's an experimental lab also. So it's not just words and a message and devices of rhyme and meter and metaphor and simile and many other great things. It's all those other things. And it can, why? Because it's you. If you were just one thing, and then it would just be one thing. But you are many things with many dimensions, and they all come into play when you write a poem. It's different than writing a report. A report is also you, but it's a little more. It's a stricter format, and a poem is a boundless format. That's why I like it. Enjoy that. Yeah.
That's true. That's true. And reminder one more time, if you have questions, you can write it into the Q&A box. Be sure to put your name and the school that you're from. Next question is from Ore Olua from Chicago Math and Science Academy. How did you start believing in your work?
Believing in your work, it's kind of automatic, but it's also not automatic. It's both. It's automatic and not automatic. You believe in your work once you read it. So once you start it, you're believing in it. And then that's kind of an organic belief. Once you start dancing, you're believing in dancing, right? Once you start speaking out and responding to questions in class or doing assignments more fluidly, then you're believing in that. You're believing in doing your assignments. But there's also a point where you go, God, am I really a poet? Am I really a writer? Am I really worthy of going to a college? I don't think so, because you're not believing in yourself. So I see that's another level of belief. And that one comes from, you got to get rid of that negative furniture. Remember? Oh, no, I can't do it. No, I didn't study enough. It's too late. I really can't write. I can't really spell. I just want to go get a job, because this is just way over. I'm done. I'm fried. All that is negative furniture. We carry it. Imagine your mind filled with negative furniture, old sofas and broken chairs and cracked windows, and you're trying to go through there. It's difficult. So we have to just pull it away. Don't think about yesterday. Don't think about tomorrow. Just believe in yourself. But you have to attempt it. You say, oh, I believe in myself. You have to attempt it. You have to act it out, speak it out, do it. Stand up tall. Usually, I'm not going to run like this. You got to stand up tall, and you got to speak out. You're not going to shout or scream. Just speak out. Say, today, I really enjoyed talking about poetry. Or, you know what? I like poetry, but to tell you the truth, I like cartoons better. Well, good. I'm glad you spoke out, right? So you have to ignite. You have to start your ignition. You got to turn your ignition key on and say what you want to say, and be intimate. It's fun. It's easy to be loud also, but it's difficult and challenging to be personal. Today I'm really feeling great today. I don't know why, but all of a sudden today I feel really good. It's difficult to say that, but say it, and then you'll get in touch with your heart, with your positive self. All that needs to be explored. And the more we do it, the better. for everybody. Yeah.
Our next question is from Sylvia from Madison East High School in Madison, Wisconsin. How do you know when writing too much info is too much without exposing your familia, status, fuerte familia issues, etc.?
Fuerte familia issues. Well, write about the issues. Write about the issues. Without we don't have to bring my grandma in here or my dad, but we can bring them in as characters with different names, right? Characters with different names, and sometimes we really want to get into the detail of the pain, or the detail of abandonment, or the detail. There's detail of alcoholism. There's a lot of or just detail of our parents, just as they are. We had a hard time growing up, and this is how we live. It doesn't have to have all those more painful issues. Sometimes it does, but maybe just bring our family. Just, it's good to give them their due, But if they're difficult, like you say, issues, then you can either just change the names, for sure, and you could also change the perspective of the writer, the point of view of the writer. You don't have to say my father. You can create another character. So, for example, I don't know, Dolores had a father, and he always left home, and Dolores began to feel sad. But you see, this is not you. This is another point of view speaking about Dolores and Dolores's father. So it's not direct. It's another character in your story telling the story of a fictional Dolores, of a fictional father, and yet the story really is more personal for the writer. See, so you find different points of view, and the information. We don't want all of the information. We don't want a big old downer story, but we do want a real story. So test yourself to see where you start feeling uncomfortable, and leave it there. Don't go all out. Just begin to tell your story, or the story you want to tell. And whenever you've got to start feeling uncomfortable, then just stop right there. You probably have already said enough. Or if you want to go all out and keep it to yourself and get it out. And then come back and write another version that represents that, but from another point of view, with other names, with another location, and yet it's true for you. That's what I think.
Thank you.
And that's something positive. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry.
Good questions. Good questions.
Yeah, you can still bring in more questions. Just put them into the Q&A box, and don't forget to put your name and the school that you're from. So our next question is from Lisbeth from North Park University. I was wondering what would be your one piece of advice to undocumented students to continue working hard even when they feel unmotivated?
Well, that's a difficult reality that you're talking about. Undocumented, working hard, even when you're unmotivated. When we're unmotivated, to work hard even without motivation. It's great to have motivation to work hard, and sometimes we work hard because we know something else is taking place. Imagine not having papers just for 10 minutes. If everyone here didn't have a license, how would you feel, right? If for just 10 minutes, everyone right here today, right now, you had lost your license, you had lost your credit card, you lost it all, and all of a sudden, you don't have your papers. Just all of a sudden, don't you feel odd? You go, oh God, I got to get that license. And not just a license. But all of a sudden, you're going to need it. You're not going to have it. You're going to be asked for it. And you can't function. But this is being undocumented, not having papers to be in the country, and then having to go to work and feeling, hey. So how do you deal with that? Well, you'd have to answer that one. How do we create motivation when we're feeling under the microscope all the time, or when we're feeling incomplete. How do we do that? Come on, I want you to all think about it, because I don't have the answers. How do we do that? We need support. We need encouragement. We need friendship. We need a positive environment, but it's hard because we have to have it inside. But support internally, what do we do internally? We got to get that negative furniture out once again. There's more of it. Because any moment you can be interrogated. As a poet laureate, I got interrogated in the plane. You know, wait, can you please come over here? And then the person showed a badge, not in the plane, in the jetway to the plane. After you leave the ticket counter, before you get in the plane, right, you got to walk to that little tunnel right there. Sir, can you please come here? Okay. Can I see your ID? Mm-hmm. Where are you going? Iowa. Where you come from? Right here, Idaho. What were you doing? I was reading. What were you reading? At the library? Mm-hmm. And what are you going to do when you get to Idaho? Well, I'm going to check in at a hotel and have another reading there. Uh-huh. And what do you do anyway? I'm a poet. All right, you can go. But I had my license, imagine? So without that. It's a hard one to answer. Let me say this. I love you. I support you. I believe in you. All of us here support you. All of us here want you to succeed. All of us here encourage you. All of us here are for you. That's my answer.
Thank you so much, Juan Felipe. Words are so inspiring. And well, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. We're happy to have had so many members and students join us. If you'd like to purchase a book, Every Day We Get More Illegal, through our book selling partner, Seminary Co-op. I'm sorry we didn't get to all the questions, but thank you again, Juan Felipe. A wonderful conversation. Thank you so much for joining us. And we will see everyone back again for our next program.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.